So what separates an average guitarist from a true master of the instrument? Well, we can define the average guitar player as an individual who has the ability to play set parts. That means riffs, transcriptions, even classical pieces. Now, the missing ingredient here is that the average guitarist does not have the ability to generate variations. And that's because at those intermediate stages of development, a guitarist is just focused on not getting lost in the fretboard and keeping the rhythm consistent. And that is taking up all of the intellectual bandwidth. And so there's no room left over for variations. In contrast, the master is able to generate variations that imply the form, like this. What you're seeing in that example are all kinds of different variations that imply the same form. So we can have some chords played rhythmically that imply the form, and we can have single note melodies that also imply the form. So the focus of the master is on those more fundamental musical elements because all of the technique is completely assumed. The master doesn't have to think about technique. The master only has to think about musicality. And now you see musicality is really the ability to generate variations that imply a specific form, right? In that example, all of the things that I'm playing are implying one singular form, and I see infinite variation potential even in this 2-bar practice form. So you see, the biggest difference between the average guitarist and the masterful musician is that the average guitarist is constantly in survival mode, while the masterful musician is thriving in limitless creative abundance. The average guitarist is simply trying not to make mistakes, right? Where the master has completely transcended the idea of mistakes. There are no mistakes. That's really the definition of mastery, because anything that I play, I can hear it against the form. And if there is a discrepancy between what I meant to play and what I actually did play, I can reconcile that discrepancy with the very next thing that I played. That's Miles Davis 101. And that's possible because at a masterful level of musicianship, my focus is on the big picture, right? It's on the form. So I'm never losing the forest for the trees because I have a concept of the forest and the individual tree all at once. And I have the experience to know that if I get hung up on a mistake, I'm gonna lose the forest for the trees. And that's exactly what happens to the average guitarist, right? They're constantly losing the forest for the trees, right? They make a mistake and it completely rips them out of the flow. So this is a really key insight right here. If you can start to transcend mistakes, as in you could make a mistake and not let it affect the flow of the performance, now you're tapping into mastery. So now consider the spiral element. Whenever you're learning a new piece, you will revert back to survival mode because that new piece is going to force you to carve out new pathways. When those pathways are unfamiliar, you're going to be focused on not making mistakes, right? So you're always coming back to that survival mode mentality that the average guitarist constantly lives in. And that's actually a very good sign. That means that you're expanding your comfort zone by adding these new pathways to it. Now understand this, compounded mastery is what happens when you've made the transition from survival mode to thriving in limitless abundance mode so many times that you can complete that entire transformation over the course of a single practice session. As in, over the course of 2 hours, you could completely master a new set of chord changes that you've never heard or seen before. You could commit that to memory and see unquantifiable variation potential on those new chord changes within a single practice session. That's compounded mastery. It's mastery over the spiral of development itself. Meta learning. So in this video, I'm going to teach you the spiral practice, which is a 3-step practice framework known as the Turbo Booster practice framework.
It's great. The Turbo Booster is great.
By the end of this video, you'll completely understand it so you can start meta learning and exponentiate your musical development. So let's get into it. So what we're going to do is create a level 1 pathway according to the Turbo Booster. So what's the level 1 pathway? That's just a singular pathway where there's no variations. So where are we going to get the notes for this? Fretboard mastery, of course. We're going to use our range optimized pathways. That's one approach we can take here. There's many infinite numbers of approach, but you got to start somewhere. Let's start with the range optimized pathways on just 3 strings. Using that as the parameter on this very first pathway. Level 1, we create a singular pathway. So that's going to look like this. Level 1 pathways. Notice how it's like a rudiment. That's straight up a rudiment, right? Now, I'm just going to take the exact same pathway and move it down a half step to respect the form, right? So even at this beginner level of the Turbo Booster, I'm already thinking about form, right? So I have a grip for the first chord in the sequence. Now I'm going to have a grip for the second chord in the sequence, and that just happens to be a half step below the first chord, and a major triad at that. So that's going to be Now, when we're isolating these individual grips, I advise playing rudiments like that. On level 1, we can do all kinds of rudiments. At first, you can play it rubato if you want, but you're working towards that rhythmic intention. And I'm just playing rhythms that I'm comfortable with. These are classic rudiments. You see what I mean? Like, I'm just playing the triad through a rudiment. And so it moves against the rhythm in an interesting way. So the rudiments on their own, that's a whole fun level of practice. But we're pretty deep in the weeds right here. We're totally lost in the forest. We're looking at that one single tree, and we're letting ourselves be lost here for a second just to get that better understanding of that tree, really ingrain that pathway. You know, you got to go with the grain, you know what I mean? So now let's get the F minor, right? We're going to voice lead the C to the F minor like this. And then connect it. It's like the same pathway. You know what I mean? I'm reconfiguring the fretboard there. I'm coming from that C and I'm asking myself, how does that C reconfigure to meet that F to respect this harmonic rhythm right here? And so I'm seeing those pathways connect by half step on the fretboard in this situation, because this is a classic flawless voice leading opportunity. The 5, which is C in this case, going to the 1, which is F in this case. Of course, that's the easiest, most essential harmonic movement of all time. So the voice leading is inevitably dynamite. And we can learn a lot from just learning our voice leading in 5/1s, just like what this is teaching you right here. Pirates, dude. You know what I'm saying? That good old 5/1. If you haven't lost yourself in the flow to the good old 5/1 like that, you're missing out on 93.6% of what life has to offer you as a musician. Voice leading is the machinery of the universe. I made a video on this. This is teaching you alignment. This is teaching you what music actually sounds like. It's opening you up as a channel. Now, what just happened was we just zoomed straight into the classic transition of this progression, right? We threw out that form and we dug right into the transition between the C and the F, But now let's zoom back out for a second. Let's zoom back out. Let's see the whole forest here. Let's now put all of these grips together. That's going to complete our level 1 of the turbo booster. So now we're going to dance our range optimized pathway through the form here. But that's going to sound something like this. See that perfect loop? I stopped exactly where I started, and right there, I would just play that on repeat until I didn't make any mistakes. I would stay in survival mode until I could play that established pathway. I just established it, so you can copy that exact one. I think I showed all the diagrams throughout this entire practice. But the idea is once you know the 3 primary fingerings and you understand how those apply to the harmonic sequencing of any tune of your choosing, then you would just create that yourself. But I'm teaching you all how to do it. I'm not saying that's easy. I'm not taking it for granted that you can suddenly just do it. I know it takes a lot of understanding. That's why I'm repeating this point. I'm happy to do it. I see it's working for you guys. So now that we've completed that pathway, we can go to level 2. We can play variations on the full pathway. Look at this, right? 3, 4. And I encourage you to stay at level 2 on your singular pathway for a long time. I very much encourage this because you will find your rhythmic voice. The discipline of level 2 is to be able to completely lose yourself in the flow of that simplicity in that parameter, because that's the alchemy that you're inducing. It's the flow state. So you're getting systematic exposure to the flow state through the discipline of the simplicity of level 2. The turbo booster is really effective. It's pure classical alchemy. All right, so let's talk about level 3. I rarely get to a point in a video where level 3 even makes any sense to talk about. And this video is honestly no exception. But in this video, I'm going to go there because I said I would show you the entire spiral of musical development, and the turbo booster takes some getting used to, takes some practice, it takes some very deliberate discipline. It's quite a head trip to just realize that if you're disciplined, all of your dreams will come true. That shouldn't be a head trip, that's just basic science. But when you're really exposed to that through the turbo booster, you understand something about reality. So it's time to show you what happens on level 3. To get to level 3, I got to go back to level 1, and then on level 1, it's like, what am I going to create on level 1? Well, I'm going to go ahead and call in the open triads, or some people call them the spread triads, because guess what? You might have noticed that all of these, those are closed position triads. So now we're going to talk about open position triads. That's going to be our other pathway. So that allows us on level 3 to have a perfect contrast of a pathway that's all closed position triads with a pathway that's all open position triads. Because on level 3, when we're combining pathways, that kind of contrast is going to come in extra handy. So here's what that could look like. Check out this level 1 pathway. Open root position D flat. Notice I can also play that here. I like to notice those types of things, and I include the up an octave as well. So that's going to be all the material we need for this D flat chord right here. And now when we go to the C chord, we're going to pick another open grip, and we're going to use the open first inversion. So this open root position D flat, going to go to that open first inversion C. And now we're covered for the first 2 chords in our practice form with these open triads, which will apply in different ways. You can already start to see. Now, what I'm going to do for the F minor here is I'm going to throw in what might be seen as a monkey wrench, but if you're already with me this full way, you got to start to think about stuff like this. On this F minor, because it's a longer duration chord, I'm actually going to use a range optimized pathway because it's going to give me access to more notes that I can easily play using the 2 note per string optimized pathways. And that will be... Just like that, you've got a nice level 2 ready to go. actually did make one singular mistake. I'm sure a lot of you could spot it, but the point came across, which is I'm only using one singular pathway, and I'm finding a lot of variations with it. And guess what? Now, I'm ready for level 3, where I combine the pathways. 3, 4. See, the exponentiation of level 3 takes effect very, very quickly. But it's only going to be possible through the discipline of level 1 and level 2. And level 1 is going to require you to do specific research in order to generate lines that voice lead through forms. And we offer the range optimized pathways for triads, the basic logic being, of course, you need to master triads across the fretboard and understand how to apply them to chord changes. That's the foundation of all musical fluency. And the range optimized pathways are a really great place, possibly the best place to start that vocabulary development that is developed according to those primary resonant structures, the triads, upon all of our harmonic saturation can exist. So if you made it this far in the video without having already been a student of Fretboard Mastery, then get your free copy of Fretboard Mastery, first link in the description. That's what we're referencing here in terms of range optimized pathways. Now, if you're a guitarist and you want to make the quantum leap from average to masterful, then my program is probably going to be the best investment you ever made. So if you'd like to join my inner circle because this is making sense to you, you know exactly how to do that. If you want to join my weekly masterclass, that's every Thursday at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, live streamed. That's where we're going through the full Fretboard Mastery course, live, one class at a time with the feedback. If you're looking for structure in your practice, you're looking to get to that next level and you don't really see the next steps to take, this is a basic investment. But if you're ready for the high level mastery and you want to get close to me, you want to be talking to me, you want to have that more intimate coaching, customized relationship, that's going to be the inner circle, right? So we got those two options. But if you're new to the channel, then you're definitely going to want to start with the intro to Fretboard Mastery and go watch all the videos from the past 2 or 3 months. And all that's going to connect. And from there, you're going to understand a lot. You'll definitely have released the floodgates of enlightenment by that point, if you haven't already. So I know I'll be talking to you very soon.